Hi again, everybody. It's Mr. Monica again. We're going to continue reading The Wizard of Oz. We're on to chapter 16. But before we get to that, in chapter 15, the Wicked Witch of the West had tried to trick Dorothy out of her silver shoes. Doing this, she had made Dorothy angry, and Dorothy threw a bucket of water on her, which melted the Wicked Witch of the West. So, that's where we're at. Dorothy's got her silver shoes back. The Wicked Witch of the West is gone. She's melted. Chapter 16 is called Together Again. The Cowardly Lion was so happy to be free again. He followed Dorothy into the castle, where she called all of the Winkies together. Remember, the Winkies were the slaves of the Wicked Witch of the West. Dorothy told them that she had accidentally melted the witch, so they were not her slaves any longer. The Winkies were overjoyed. They had been slaves for such a long time, they could hardly believe that they were free. They threw a big party in Dorothy's honor that lasted for days. Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion enjoyed themselves at first. As the days went by, however, they kept thinking of the friends they had lost. If only the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman could be here with us, the Cowardly Lion exclaimed one afternoon. If they were here, I could be very happy, courage or no courage. Do you think there is any chance that we could rescue them? Dorothy asked. I don't know, the Cowardly Lion replied, but it can't hurt to try. So Dorothy asked the Winkies if they would be willing to help her. Of course, the grateful Winkies cried. We would do everything in our power to help the person who set us free. What would you like us to do? Dorothy told them what had happened to her friends and how much she wanted to find and rescue them. In no time, Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, and a large group of Winkies set out to search for the Tin Woodman. They searched all that day and part of the next. At last, they came upon the rocky valley where the Tin Woodman lay in a battered, bent, and rusty heap. Nearby was his trusty axe, with its blade rusted and its handle broken in half. Wonder if they're going to be able to save him. What do you think? Let's see. Very gently, the Winkies gathered up all the pieces of the Tin Woodman and his axe and carried them back to the Wicked Witch's castle. Are any of your people tinsmiths? Dorothy asked the Winkies. Oh, yes, they said. The tinsmiths came at once, took a look at what was left of the Tin Woodman, and told Dorothy not to worry. We'll soon have him as good as new. For 4 nights and 3 days, the Winky tinsmiths worked hard. They welded the Tin Woodman's broken parts back together, banged out his dents, sanded and oiled away his rusty spots, and patched up the holes. Then, for the final touch, they polished him to a gleaming shine. When the Tin Woodman could move and talk again, he thanked the Winkies. They took him to see Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion, who greeted him with shouts of joy. The Tin Woodman was so happy that he burst into tears. Dorothy wiped them away quickly so he wouldn't rust again. The friends rejoiced at being together again, but they were saddened that the Scarecrow wasn't with them. We have to try to find him, said Dorothy, and the others agreed. Here's a picture of the Tin Woodman. The Tin Woodman when he finally began to move and talk again. The next day, Dorothy, Toto, the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Woodman, and a group of Winkies set out to find the Scarecrow. They walked all that day and part of the next day. At last they came to a tall tree with straw scattered all around it. Looking up into the high branches, they saw the Scarecrow's clothes still where the winged monkeys had tossed them. The tree was too tall and smooth for Dorothy or any of the Winkies to climb, but the Tin Woodman told them not to worry. "Stand back," he said. "I'll chop the tree down." The Winky tinsmiths had done as fine a job of fixing the Tin Woodman's axe as they had of fixing the Tin Woodman. The axe was so sharp that it took no time at all for the Tin Woodman to chop clean through the tree's thick trunk. The tree fell over with a crash, knocking the Scarecrow's clothes out of the branches they had been tangled in. Very gently, the Winkies gathered up every bit of the Scarecrow's body and clothes and carried them back to the Wicked Witch's castle. At once, the Winkies set about sewing up the ripped places and stuffing him with fresh, clean straw. In no time, he was as good as new. He hugged his friends and all the Winkies, thanking them over and over for saving him. Now that they were all together again, the friends relaxed at the castle, celebrating with the Winkies and enjoying one another's company. After a few days, though, Dorothy began to feel homesick again. More than anything, she wished that she could see her Aunt Em. "We have to go back to the Emerald City," she said. "I want to ask Oz to keep his promise and send me back to Kansas." "Yes," agreed the Tin Woodman. "The Wicked Witch of the West is dead, just as he commanded, and he promised to give me a heart in return." "That's right," said the Scarecrow. "He promised to give me some brains." "That's not all," said the Cowardly Lion. "He promised to give me courage." They called the Winkies together again to tell them that they would have to be leaving the next morning. This made the Winkies very sad. They would miss all their new friends, but they would especially miss the Tin Woodman, who had won their hearts. They begged him to stay and rule over their yellow land of the West. "That would be a great honor," said the Tin Woodman, "but I really must go and ask Oz for a heart." The Winkies understood. The next morning, they helped Dorothy gather supplies for the journey back to the Emerald City. While searching for food to take with them, Dorothy opened a cabinet and discovered the golden cap and tried it on. It fit her perfectly. She didn't know anything about its magic powers, but she thought it was pretty. "It belonged to the Wicked Witch," the Winkies told her. "Take it. It's yours." So she put the golden cap on her head as she waved goodbye to the Winkies and set off with her friends on the journey back to Oz. As they walked away, the Winkies gave 3 loud cheers and shouted many good wishes for the companions to carry with them. That's the end of chapter 16, my friends. So I'm glad to see that Dorothy and her friends are all together again, and they're heading back to the Emerald City to ask Oz to keep his promise. I wonder if he'll keep his promise. Do you think so? We'll have to wait till tomorrow. Chapter 17 is called Back to the Emerald City. I hope you enjoyed our chapter today, my friends, and I'll see you tomorrow.